Hello everyone, this is a video presentation about an intervention I would like to perform with and for the parents of my students. The intervention is that of using mobile text and voice message communication to facilitate parental involvement. The idea is that this would lead to positive motivational outcomes for young language learners. So what's the background of this intervention? Well, the parents of my students seem to express conflicting expectations and behaviors regarding my role as a teacher. For example, some parents wanted to observe the class, but when in class, they spent most of their time with their heads down, looking at their phones. Some parents asked me to give individual care to their child, but this request displayed a lack of understanding of the group class dynamic. Some parents ask for more speaking opportunities for their children, and of course this is something that I always seek to achieve. However, as my young learners are but 5 years old, they are not yet proficient in their own mother tongue. Alongside these parental requests were parental inactions. For example, some of my students failed to do their homework. Some of them forgot to bring the textbook to class, and many of them did not have the necessary stationery for learning. This made me question my role as a teacher. I wondered whether I was doing a good job. I began to think about how to give students individual care in the midst of a group class. I wondered whether playing and drawing were really valid forms of learning. In all, I began to think, how could I satisfy all of the demands of my parents? As you can see, I had a lot of questions and I wanted to find a simple way to remedy them. And that's where the intervention idea came from. Liaising with my classmates, tutors, and other experts in the field, international school teachers, and even a teacher in a reading club, I began to brainstorm some ideas. And I came up with a list of 6 possible interventions. Those interventions are a needs analysis document, a learning contract, a parent workshop, a website or blog, an activity that brings parent and child together, a social media platform that allows this an insight into the classroom. In general, the interventions are to strengthen the teacher-parent relationship, and more specifically, the student-teacher-parent relationship. So depending on your situation, one intervention may be more suitable than another. So that's why I created an interventions table of pros and cons, where you may choose an idea that is compatible with your teaching situation. Now that table is rather large, so I have uploaded it to an external web page, and the link is on the screen now. Weighing up the strengths and weaknesses, I conclude that in order for the intervention to be successful, the teacher must acknowledge and accept that execution will result in an increased workload. So in order to be successful, you should be aware of the commitment involved. The teacher should have an internal desire to improve what goes on in the classroom. The teacher must dedicate time and energy to the project, designing the intervention in detail. The teacher should be aware of the financial cost involved, perhaps not one that he or she has to make themselves, but perhaps a cost needs to be borne by the school. Technical skills are always useful, especially with the setup and maintenance of the website or blog or social media platform group. Finally, linguistic competence would be very useful. A basic understanding of the student's native language would help not only to explain difficult concepts in the classroom, but would also be useful when attempting to directly communicate with parents. With all that in mind, I have chosen one of the interventions to experiment with, that of mobile text and voice message communication to disseminate classroom-based information. In the China context, WeChat has been chosen. Most of my parents have a smartphone, and that means ubiquitous access to the WeChat platform. It has a very clean and clear interface, seems to be quite user-friendly, would save parents time. That is to say, they just need to receive the posts and receive the information and read the posts. It's free, and it allows the teacher to send messages instantaneously. Through the creation of the WeChat group, I will be able to pass critical school-related content directly to parents in different forms. For example, text messages could be sent, giving details of what the student is learning now, homework, and information about upcoming tests. The teacher could use WeChat to send images of students working diligently in the classroom. The WeChat platform allows the sending of audio and video files. This could be used to show the students speaking, performing in class. Finally, I envisage using WeChat to ask and answer questions. Perhaps parents could ask each other questions themselves in the first instance, and then directly with me or directly with the teacher in the next. So I haven't carried out this intervention yet, but I am optimistic about its success. First of all, I hope it will help to address the questions or the doubts that I had about my teaching ability. I believe WeChat, by allowing parents to see what's going on in the classroom, by having audio and visual evidence of students' work, would make them satisfied with what's going on in the class. Having the WeChat moments on their phone means that parents will be able to speak to their children in more detail about what they have learned and what they are doing. And I hope that this would bring parents closer to their children. Now, initially, I think that using WeChat would increase the teacher workload. But eventually, it should decrease overall by reducing the number of parent questions and queries. Now, a good language classroom intervention is best supported by second language acquisition theory. The reading that I undertook prior to designing this intervention covered a number of different theories: ecological systems theory, student engagement theory, achievement motivation theory, and parental involvement theories. Ecological systems theory places the child at the center of increasingly distal spheres of influence, from the family and school to the community and society at large. This shows how differential parental actions may encourage children to develop positive attitudes and behaviors towards achievement. Student engagement theory involves both behaviors and emotions and encompasses effort and persistence in schoolwork. The idea through using WeChat is to show students in a state of flow, and that is to show students so deeply engaged and deeply absorbed in learning that they don't even know that they are studying. Achievement motivation theory can be defined as the need for success or the attainment of excellence. Perceived competence is seen to be a direct predictor of achievement goals, and how motivated a student is to display competence comes not only from within, but also from external influences. So it stands to reason to include family members in the design of my intervention. The idea of exploiting WeChat is to unite parents, students, and teachers alike in the learning process. Now, there are many parental theories, but one that I'd like to mention now is Christensen and Sheridan, who have established the 4 A's, the school conditions necessary to establish strong partnerships: approach, attitude, atmosphere, and actions. The advice seems to be that teachers should not work in isolation, but seek out a partnership with students and parents, encouraging all to participate. The 4 A's supports an intervention that is community-based, perhaps a dedicated platform to share knowledge, where interested parties ask and answer questions. Therefore, I consider my intervention as one that incorporates the 4 A's. In terms of parental involvement, teachers should consider the cultural barriers that may prevent teachers and parents from really understanding each other. Living in China, I thought it wise to do some reading on Confucius, and I discovered that the Confucian educational model not only strongly influences attitudes to education and learning today, but essentially defines parental involvement. So I think all teachers should be aware of the extent to which their own educational and professional background shapes their perceptions of parental involvement. Indeed, it was only through these readings that I realized that parents in China are deeply involved in the learning, in their children's learning. So I plan to share my experience of this intervention with you in the near future on my blog. But I would also like to encourage teachers out there now to try this intervention out. In China, we use WeChat, but feel free to use a localized version such as WhatsApp, and then post your feedback on my blog. The link is on the page now. Well, teachers, all that's left to say is good luck.